We've arrived in Anchiem. Still no wind.
Are these desert places normally supposed to be windy?
When they're the site of the wind crystal they are, this stillness shouldn't be possible.
The wind carried all manner of blessings to this land in days past. It was the kingdom's lifeblood.
I see. All the more reason to hurry then. Which way to the temple?
From here, we need only head, we ought to make for... which way is it?
Ignore anything she says. Anya's raises getting lost to an art form.
I'm impressed you made it to Kaldisla.
Just a moment. My journal details much of Anchiem's topography. A clockwork metropolis, nestled in Harena's sandy bosom. Here, time, above all, is sacred. A massive timepiece crowns the kingdom, fueled as all of Anchiem by the ceaseless currents originating from the Temple of Wind to the south.
Quite thorough, isn't it? Sounds as if you've been here before. Perhaps that book of yours is a travel diary?
I do seem possessed of a certain wanderlust. The normal sort as well. Ooh, perhaps I'll find a train of ex-lovers here among the sands.
Let's be off. We make south.
All present, Lord Marshal. Save the usual two, at least.
No matter. Let's begin.
I trust word has reached you from Kaldisla. The Knights of the Eternian Sky have fallen to the Vestal.
I'd not thought the girl so bloodthirsty as all that.
It appears she surrounded herself with capable guards. What's more, it pains me to say it, but Idia's whereabouts have been lost amid the chaos.
That is no concern of yours. Do not confuse personal matters with your assigned task, Alternus.
My apologies, Lord Marshal.
Not only did the Sky Knights fail, they've given the Vestal wings. Why they didn't simply kill the child, I'll never know.
Keenly insightful as ever, Victoria. Yet I fear we've need of the Vestal alive.
Have we, Victor? No matter then. If she fled by air, it's a simple matter to track her. She makes for Anchiem by necessity.
And to the Temple of Wind. Anchiem does face upon the Florsheim Sea.
Of course. Most of the world's seas have gone putrid, but the inner sea remains navigable. That would offer the airship a berth. But what does she aim to do there? Why return to the crystal now? It smells of some sinister plot.
Anchiem is the province of the Cammer and Profiteur merchantry. What say you, Lord Marshal?
We haven't the leisure of chasing the Vestal across the globe and back. We need her in custody now. Tell the merchantry to employ any means they must.
Apprehensive Vestal by any means necessary. Seems the Council of Six is growing desperate.
Those were their words. I've relayed them to you. My contract states I'm to receive payment for my troubles from you.
Then your contract is mistaken. I've heard nothing of the sort. Bah, fine. You'll have your fee. But I am taking the small discount. Only fair as a regular customer, eh?
If you must.
Still, this Vestal is quite the little monster, no? To have this Sky Knight so undone. If the margin is high enough, I would tackle a behemoth bare-handed. But until I see a profit, I'll not move an inch. Business is business, yes?
Silence, one and all! Your king, Camar the Eighth, speaks!
My people, I thank you for your tireless efforts. As you are well aware, our glorious nation's production has suffered a harsh fall since the wind's cessation brought the Grand Mill to a halt. Without nature's form of bounty, our turbines went completely still. They sit as silent as the desert night. In the wake of this crisis, you rose up and took matters literally in hand, operating the turbines manually. I, your king, lack words to thank you for your hard work. However, I am much aggrieved to say that energy production is less than 1/5 its former total. At this rate, our proud kingdom, renowned for its unparalleled industry, is doomed to ineluctable decline. I find myself without recourse but to revisit my prior fiat regarding the schedule of all able-bodied citizens. Henceforth, labor shall commence at 0900 hours and will extend beyond the current 1659 until 2059, effective immediately.
What? We're flesh and blood! We need rest!
In so doing, turbine output is expected to rise to 30% of its former value before the wind ceased output of...
Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Grave news!
What? The Vestal? Be calm, my children. I know your pain all too well. My heart bleeds just as yours. But I ask that you join me in remembering the cause of our woes. The Crystal Orthodoxy and the Vestal's indolence. Therein lies the true cause of the wind's absence. And what has the Great Vestal done since the air went still? What did she do in the face of your suffering? She abandoned you, fled the country to save herself alone. In this, Anchem's first and direst hour of need, the Vestal we loved and trusted is powerless or unwilling to help. Though it pains me deeply to tell you of these things, I cannot deny this simple truth. What resolution can be brought about to this terrible crisis? The Crystal Orthodoxy is naught but a hollow creed. What result have years of worship at the altar of the Crystal brought us? Once more I say it. It is by our own hands that we shall push this glorious kingdom ever forward. Onward to still greater glory!
There! Just now, that leer! That was aimed at us!
Seems that little speech was for your benefit, Agnes.
It's slander is what it is. That creep's giving you no chance at all to defend yourself.
Agnes.
Ognis oblige, Vestal of Wind. His Majesty bids you come.
Ah, I see you've returned, Vestal. Why then did you not come to me for an audience immediately? I was dreadfully worried, you know. I'd begun to think you'd fallen victim to some terrible accident. So, what of the Caldislan Chasm?
I fear it was worse even than your Majesty had imagined.
So tell me, was it worse than the state of your own nation? Are you even aware of the situation here?
The wind remains still.
And the Grand Mill be calm. I'm pleased to see you're not totally ignorant. The turbines that form the heart of this kingdom, the greatest symbols of her wisdom, now turn by hand. The hands of our citizens, compulsory labor service. Our survival hinges now upon their sacrifice. And even that will not last forever. We need that mill turning again soon. Not by our citizens' hands, but by the wind. And whose job is it to see that the wind blows, if not the Vestal's? I can think of no other value you provide, save that. Anyway, will you now end the suffering your negligence has caused to this land, to its people? Or is that beyond your abilities? Perhaps you would sooner run again, turn away from the plight of your people.
If that is all His Majesty wished to say, I'll be on my way. I haven't the time to waste here.
What? I'll not be spoken to like this! Just whose fault do you think this mess is, girl?
That could have gone better. Not that I blame you for getting mad.
Mad? I felt no anger. Only fear. The king frightens me.
His tone was far from pleasant, but he didn't seem dangerous.
The people who had come to hear him speak frighten me the same. Everyone in this city, they see me only as the Vestal, not a human being. I don't know how to speak to them. Just thinking on it sets my legs to trembling.
That explains the tense look you've worn since we've landed here.
Personally, I felt amazing after that little conversation. Did you see his face? It was purple. I nearly laughed out loud.
I tuned him out about halfway through his speech myself. I never did have much attention span for listening to men go on. Now women...
In any case, we'd best hurry to the temple. It's all that I can do.
Hey, I believe this is our first meeting, yes? Erutis Profiteur, chairman of the Camera and Profiteur Merchantry, at your service. How kind of you to pay me this visit. Now, what is it you are needing today? We are the only purveyor of water licensed by the king himself, and we take pride in our product. No effort is spared in providing the cleanest, freshest water possible. The results are clear. Water humor, yes? But I have lost the time again. I have appointments waiting, my friends. Let us speak again soon. Guard! Our honored guests are leaving. See they are seen out. Have a refreshing day!
Feeling parched. Can we stop for a drink of water?
You, stop! This well is property of the Camera and Profiteur Merchantry. Unauthorized withdrawals are strictly prohibited.
Ah! Withdrawals? There are people out here going thirsty!
No! There are peasants going thirsty. If you want a free drink so badly, go join the other rabble at the Oasis.
Help! Someone!
What's wrong?
Thieves! I've been robbed!
What?
They took my water, my pack, even the camel I rode in on. They took everything! That man from the merchantry didn't say anything about this. He told me to come here, said it was safe. How am I supposed to survive if I have to risk my life every time I need water?
Try to stay calm. Do you know where these thieves are now?
They're right behind you!
Let's see. 2, 4, 6, maybe 40 in all? That's quite the little band they've assembled.
We'll take care of this, sir. You go ahead. Get out of here!
Hey! Just what are you doing? Letting a good mark go? Our good mark, mind!
We couldn't stand to watch you cowards just do as you pleased.
You have to stop this. Drop everything you've stolen and leave this place at once!
What's this then? Who are they? I've got no word of this lot. Leave it out, it's too hot for this. Change of plans, boys. We're done here.
Wait! Leave the goods you stole!
Not familiar with how thieving works, then? I'm cross enough already. And to heck with this thirst! The needles in my throat are driving me mad! I need a drink. This anger won't leave me till this thirst has. We're out, boys!
Hey! I said wait!
Stop, Tiz. I feel the same, but there are too many. We can't take them head on.
What's this now? The ones from the Oasis, is it? You're the rat sneaking about the place?
Why do you persist in these awful deeds? You must return the articles you stole!
One of you muzzle this dog's yapping, would you? Be a friend. And what? Don't tell me you came all this way just to vomit a few platitudes out on my floor. This place is nothing but sand and hypocrites. Drives a man mad. And this thirst, these daggers in my throat, all the water in the desert can't dull their edge.
The people you robbed at the Oasis were thirsty too. They risked their lives to get at that water, and you...
Spare me the lecture. You come to convert me? Set me on the straight and narrow? Teach me to follow the rules, be a good little sheep, live an honest life? Out here, honest lives end quick. The desert's a beast, and it's always hungry. The city's no different. There are only two kinds of folk in this world, make no mistake. The takers and the taken from. My worthless parents were easy marks, textbook victims, and still, they grit their teeth and tried hard as they could to get through each day. Till the day came they couldn't feed a family of 3, so they cut loose their kid and disappeared.
They just left you?
The city just took and took till they had nothing left. Their own brat became a burden, so they dumped him like a bag of sand. Daft, eh? Absolutely stupid. If surviving means pinching from other folk, I'll happily join the takers.
Are you sure they left because you were a burden to them? Maybe they swallowed their tears and left you in the city in hopes that you, at least, could find happiness there.
Aye, or maybe they left me because they didn't have the guts to kill me themselves. You don't know a stinking thing about them.
You're right. I don't know their reasons. But they do. If they're still alive, you can go and ask them. You can track them down and make them explain themselves. Make them answer for their choices. You can yell and scream and fight as long as you like. As long as it takes. You can work on forgiving them. But you haven't done any of that. You've stayed here sulking and festering all your life. That's far dafter to me!
My throat! This accursed thirst, it's worse than ever. This is your fault! You smug, delusional, self-righteous little lambs make me sick! I'll take everything from you! Oi, Chief! Kent, get your horns in here!
I assume your calling me means this conversation is over.
Aye, that's enough words. I'm choking on this lot's hypocrisy. I want them stripped to the bone!
I care nothing for your reasons, and still less for your ideals. My assistance hinges only on the weight of your coin purse.
She's heavy enough. You'll have your pay.
Then we've a contract, and you will have your money's worth.
We'll not stop here!
My contract ends here. I'll take my leave.
What? Chief, I don't understand.
Your odds are poor, and I don't take poor clients.
Go then! They all abandoned me in the end! fitting end. Everything taken away. So thirsty.
Will you look at all this? And every bit of it's stolen, no doubt. We need to get these back to their owners.
You'll want to have a look at this first. It's rather stunning. Those thieves were under the employ of the Camera and Profiteur merchantry.
And the people suffering? Did it mean nothing to them so long as they reaped a profit? Despicable!
Seems I've found another entry for my black as pitch list. This is unforgivable. We have to stop them! The people will continue to suffer as long as these degenerates hold the kingdom's water ransom. I say we storm the place and set this matter straight right now!
What? Remunerations for the lost caravan? It was stolen! along with my supplies and my camels.
And this is not my responsibility, eh? You failed to protect your investments. You! We had a contract, my friend. The provisions for loss and damages were clearly written in the fine print.
Even so, I can't be made to pay for the damages when I've just had all my possessions stolen. I'll be out on the streets.
This is not my concern. You will pay. Or, if you prefer, I can be asking your wife for this money. Your daughter?
Wait, please! Leave my family out of this!
That's enough!
Why are you here? Eavesdropping, are you?
Sir, you don't owe this rotten band of fraudulent crooks a single peeg. You are free to be on your way.
I feel this joke is not funny. I have business with this gentleman. We have no time for baseless accusations.
Then what of accusations with concrete proof?
Oh? And just what is that, eh?
A little souvenir snatched from the lair of the thieves prowling the Oasis of late. It bears your signature, Chairman, as well as your orders to attack any citizens approaching the Oasis.
What? Then when they... And you were planning to rob me now a second time!
Ah, this day. No luck at all. I suppose this is a result of trusting that useless urchin to perform a simple task.
Then you don't deny it? Release the city's wells to the public then, immediately!
I beg your pardon? Just who are you to be issuing the orders, girl? As I told you before, this is a business. If you are too poor, this is your problem. Stupid enough to be tricked, your problem. Don't like it? Go earn some money, eh?
Money, money, money. These are human lives. Ugh, this is useless. I'm shutting you down right now.
We will be seeing about that. Sigma Kint, I have work for you.
Paying work, I assume?
You! From the Thieves' Den! You'd help this crook?
Provided his pockets are heavier than yours, yes. I care nothing past that. Irutus Profiteur, Merchant of Death. Do we have an agreement?
But of course! And I'm feeling generous today. Kill them all, and I'll throw in a bonus!
Contract established. You'll have your money's worth.
Crystal's blessing!
Our agreement ends here. This is what your money buys.
What? I've paid you a small fortune!
Any further, and I'll be placing my life on the line. That bears a surcharge of 51.2 billion Pig.
That's not a surcharge! It's a national budget! You're mad!
Then this is farewell. Best of luck.
This is fraud! I'll see you reported for this!
This has only begun!
Money! All my money! My...
I'm still just livid! I never knew people this unbelievably foul even existed!
I'm just glad we managed to root out the ones causing Anchem's people such suffering.
And just look at these papers! It's proof of one crime after the next.
I can only pray this will make life here a bit less difficult.
At the risk of repeating myself, you'll want to have a look at this. No signature this time. A memo of Profiteur's, perhaps?
Whatever it is, it stinks. The merchantry might not be the only snakes involved in this scheme.
It bears checking. Let's have a look for ourselves at the mill tonight.